in spiritual circles where you're often interact with people who are very different from you, you don't pick them as friends. You're just a melting pot of different personalities coming together for a common goal, and cooperating with individuals is very difficult.
People think spiritual life is all unicorns and crystals and chanting mantras and happy days, right? But the real work is I'm choosing to put myself in a situation where I will be challenged. But that's the real spiritual endeavor,
I think all too often we think of life as, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this to me, God? Why? Instead of why is this happening to me, let's transform into what is this trying to teach me?
To live a life of no regrets means to sacrifice in life, right? It means to give up something, not take the comfortable path.
If you're not perfect, be humble. But when you're humble, you're perfect.
You're perfect.
Before we jump into this episode, I'd love to invite you to join this candid spiritual community to hear more conversations that will help you become happier, healthier, and more healed. All I want you to do is click on that subscribe button, because I love your support. I love seeing all the comments pouring through, all the love pouring through, and we're just getting started. I can't wait to go on this journey with you, whether you're a spiritual seeker or you're just curious about the topic. And we really hope that our conversations will provide you food for thought and inspiration for your own spiritual journey. So join us for honest, candid discussions about spirituality for soul's sake.
For soul's sake, for soul's sake.
Hello, welcome. Another episode of For Soul's Sake. Today we're joined by Keli in a funky vest.
Hey.
Tell us about it.
I got this in Jaipur. Actually, I didn't get it. I was in Jaipur, which is probably my most favourite place in the whole world.
I took him for one day and now it's like his favourite place in the whole world.
Man, I want to just retire there and just
Spend lots of money there, that's what he wants to say.
I want to spend loads of money there. It's just such a colourful and musical and devotional place. It's just awesome and also crazy, and everyone there is just nutter. I love it. And we went into this clothes shop, Anarchy, which has all this
sponsor us, please.
That would be great, actually. It has all of this block print stuff, and really sweetly these guys were like, Keli, I can see that this is your favourite place ever. Let's buy you some clothes. And they did. I got a waistcoat, got a couple shirts. I was really I was touched, and so this is what I'm repping today.
I love it. It
Nice.
looks good.
Thank you.
You got any interesting pieces of clothing in your wardrobe?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
What's your weirdest, funkiest piece of clothing?
My funkiest piece of clothing? I don't think I have.
Yeah.
I think I ditched it. I used to have some really inappropriate T-shirts from back in the day.
Give us one.
So I used to have this. I used to have this one T-shirt, and it was black T-shirt, and it had like a black and white lines. But if you look at it from different directions, you see something different. Yeah. So
Something different, yeah?
Yeah. So you look at it from one side, and it's just a nice picture of just some guy looking cool. But you look at it from the other side, and it's a very
Inappropriate?
inappropriate
Okay,
picture.
good.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at
This
that.
was me at 14, 15, some of those. But
Something about being young and wanting to challenge people.
Yeah.
it's the T-shirt statements that this is me and this is what I'm into. I used to have this picture of these two gangsters with guns. This is me, guys. Just so you know, I'm repping the T-shirt.
Some of it doesn't make any sense. I went through my emo phase in school, and I had
This guy's gone through so many
I've
phases,
done
man.
I've done them all.
Rastafarianism.
I did them all. Every haircut under the sun.
Emo.
And my friend Elias, if you're out there, I haven't seen you in 20 years, but I hope you're doing well. He was called Two Belt Elias because he used to wear two studded belts
On top of each other.
Yeah, but they weren't tight. They were loose. He had skinny jeans on and two loose belts that had little metal spikes on them and stuff. And there was no practical purpose whatsoever. It was just, that was the statement. He's just trying to be outrageous.
Yeah. Things we do as kids, eh?
Yeah. Let's get into the verse. Bhagavad Gita. Chapter, where are we? 16, verse number 4. Translation for you. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of, brace yourself, demoniac nature.
Ooh.
Ooh, spooky.
pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha.
It's quite an old school word, isn't it? Demoniac.
Yeah. Go on, Keli, tell us the etymology.
I don't actually know.
Oh.
I know that I know that because when I used to read about demoniac, I used to think about some guy with horns and a tail and stuff.
I still do.
But
maybe it's the inner demon. Is that what he's going to say?
Well, perhaps.
Okay, let's hear.
Well, I think the Bhagavad Gita is a really wonderful book because it's challenging. It's a book that challenges you. And my approach to the Bhagavad Gita is if I'm reading it and I feel triggered, that means I've got something to work on.
Yeah.
So
wow.
If I'm reading it and I'm like, I'm like demoniac. Okay, that's not me. Then I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. There's something here I need to dive deep into. And I like philosophy that challenges you, not just to think, but challenges you to change. And I'm going through a situation at the moment where a friend of mine went on a pilgrimage with someone, and he had a bit of a difficult time on the pilgrimage, and the leader of the pilgrimage got in touch with me and also said, I'm having a difficult time with this person who's apparently your friend. And he was telling me similar things to what this other guy was telling me. They're both they're both accusing one another, right? They're both accusing one another that they're like this. And I'm listening to both sides and I'm thinking, what's interesting is, in order for you to see these things within each other, you must have them yourself.
Did you say that to either of them?
No. I haven't. But it's something I also think about now, and it's something that I contemplate when I read the Bhagavad Gita. And I think if we allow ourselves to be challenged, then there's a lot of spiritual gems there.
Yeah, I remember reading the Bhagavad Gita the very first time I was on the way to uni. I was on tube. I read something in the first couple of pages, and I thought, nah.
Really?
And I thought, nah. I shut the book. Didn't pick it up for a week. I was like, nah. But then something at a time, just look, give it a chance, read a bit more, maybe it'll make sense. Then as I sort of let my ego down, opened myself up to what could be, it's just a book, right? Then things started to make a little bit more sense. You have to drop the ego. I think the first thing on that verse, right? Pride.
Yeah. Do you think if the Bhagavad Gita wasn't considered a religious text, it wouldn't receive as much flack? Like if it was just like a non-fiction
like
piece
a self-help
of literature,
thing,
self-help book, I think people would be more willing to pick it up. Like, people have written like new versions of it. Rancho Prime has written a new version, or a abridged version, or I don't know what you'd call it actually. And people are always writing versions of the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, I don't know if we want to get into this, but do you think we should always remain with a particular lineage version? Like for us, this version of the Bhagavad Gita spoke to all three of us, purported by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Do you think that it's okay to have new versions? How does that sit with both of you?
I think it is. I've definitely got a bias towards this version.
Yeah.
And every bookshop I go into, and I'm addicted to books, I go in every bookshop I can, I never see this version. I always see a different version. Yeah. And it's understood that truth is, mysterious sometimes. It takes a certain amount of discretion or intelligence to realize the value that you have. And sometimes truth is likened to a diamond that's held in the hand of a child. They don't understand the true value of it. And I know that in the West we prioritize academia and status and title and how many letters have you got after your name, and it's usually those versions that are on the bookshelf. Whereas this version, which is written by a genuine saint who doesn't necessarily have these accolades. Western accolades and titles, won't make it on the bookshelf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think, again, I agree with you. I do have a bias towards this book because it's the most succinct, accurate translation, as it's called, as it is. It's Bhagavad Gita as it is, right? And I think we need that. I think we need the truth, like, bared, right? With the truth bare. We need it very conclusive. We need it talking exactly what it's meant to say. But then we also need the essence distilled for time and place. And as time moves on,
I love that.
you know, we need to relate to it, but we can't lose it. You can't ditch the old version and reinvent a new version.
Yeah.
You have to use the old version. That stays always true. But it's how do I take the essence from these teachings?
Yeah, it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. The word demoniac, for example.
Yeah.
That's an ancient word, right? That's a very ancient word. Who
Sounds
says
a
that
little
anymore?
Gothic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connotations of that era.
We just don't use words like that anymore. And I think it may hold a very different connotation in 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years.
I heard something incredible yesterday relating to this verse on morality. And the person speaking at this event said that our morality is usually just a lack of opportunity.
Our morality is usually a lack of
Opportunity. I'll explain.
Alright.
I'll explain what I mean. So, if you don't have a pizza in front of you, and someone says renounce the pizza, and you go, I renounce the pizza.
easy peasy.
Easy peasy, right? If you have a pizza in front of you and someone says renounce the pizza and you renounce the pizza, that's
Credible.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's commendable. So he's saying actually our morality is usually just a lack of opportunity, meaning when it comes to,
Right.
you know, push and shove, when we actually face, you know, an event where we might be pushed to make a moral decision, then we could struggle.
Wow.
But we usually don't have an opportunity, so we can just walk around saying, yeah, I'm very moral, I'm very ethical. But there's nothing for you to be moral about. There's no opportunity for you to show your virtue, right?
Right. Radhika Swami says that. He says you can tell the advancement of your spirituality by what you do when no one else is watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's an opportunity there to do what you want.
Yeah.
And no one's going to watch.
Real character shown when situations where you're provoked.
Yeah.
How do you respond to provoking situations?
So he was saying that the way people get around this is they go to the temple and they say the temple is just me and God. That's it. But that's not the test, because God is, you know, if you go to a Krishna temple, you see Krishna there on the altar standing with the flute smiling. He's not going to challenge you. He's not going to say, why haven't you been to the temple? Or, you know, you haven't been reading, you know, studying your books, or you haven't been chanting your rounds or whatever, right? Krishna's just standing there happy. The real test is the devotees, you know. The real test is the other spiritualists in your community.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going to bring out the anger and the envy and the pride and the conceit and the, right?
Arrogance. Yeah.
They're the ones, but we avoid them. We say, no, I'm going to the temple, just me and God.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to be moral then, you know. How spiritual are you when you're in a community and you have to actually tolerate and serve others? That's the real test.
That's the necessity of community.
Right.
Need to have that.
Other people are the austerity of the modern time. Like the ancient yogis bring it back. Super yogi.
Super
yogi.
In his
He's
time.
made a return.
He's made a return. Always return of the yogi. It said that in the previous ages, the austerity was done in caves in the Himalayas in quite austere external situations, and the austerity shifted and changed. And now these days, we don't need to take those austerities. We can live a perfectly normal life, but the austerity is other minds, you know, the provocations of other people, and that's just like the biggest nightmare of today's day and age. That's causing so much anxiety, depression, expectation, so much conflict, relationships. It's like social anxiety. This thing, social anxiety, wasn't a thing as much as it was. It wasn't even termed something when I was younger. But the anxiety of being in social situations with other sentient beings is now a thing. And it's that's the austerity, and for the spiritualists, it's
Wow.
it's like that, right?
I'm just thinking about how often I've made the excuse of having a lack of opportunity for solitude and using that as a reason for my lack of advancement. Saying, I just don't have time to myself to chant and read, and I don't have time to be by myself and absorb, like I don't have that solitude, and therefore I can't become purified. And yes, to an effect, that is true. You do need to make time to be, but also see every opportunity as an opportunity for purification.
Yeah.
Whether you're surrounded by 100 people, whether you're surrounded by one, whether you're on your own, etc., etc., etc. See every moment as an opportunity for purifying oneself from the demoniac tendencies of pride, conceit, anger, arrogance, etc.
The last point in that verse was ignorance, right? Was it ignorance?
Yeah, ignorance, yep.
And when I hear the word ignorance, I'm like, I don't know how that's demoniac, but ignorance is to ignore something, like to be indifferent to something. And just like you're saying, the mind is always looking for the path of least resistance.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're always ignoring the opportunities for the comfort, and that's actually, people think spiritual life is all, unicorns and crystals and chanting mantras and happy days, right?
No,
But the real work is I'm choosing to put myself in a situation where I will be challenged. I'm choosing to put myself in a situation where my ego might get hurt, I might not be comfortable in this situation, but that's the real spiritual endeavor,
It's the work
Yeah,
of-
the pain of discipline is uncomfortable, but a pain of regret of not having tried to live a fulfilled lifestyle, to try and receive grace. The pain of not having tried to receive grace is unbearable. If we don't even try, can you imagine, like, hard-hitting point maybe, imagine 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, the time has come, you're lying on that bed, the inevitable, the time is coming, your throat is choking up. The number one feeling that people feel, statistically speaking, is regret. That they didn't live a fulfilled lifestyle. And we can hammer the point in as much as you like, but until I do something myself to transform my life, put myself in situations that purify my consciousness, put myself in this association of those that uplift me beyond the material, until I face the fact that I've got pride in my heart, I've got arrogance, I've got conceit, I've got anger, I've got harshness, and I'm ignorant to most of the truth. Until we face those things, can't do anything about it. You can't fix a problem that you don't even know exists. So unfortunately, now you've heard it, got to do something about it.
I love this point, Srila Prabhupada, so the father of the Bhakti movement in the West, and when he was passing away in his last days, he said to all of his disciples, "You can show your love to me by how you cooperate." Specifically that, you can show your love to me by how you cooperate. And just as going on Keli's point here is like, that's not an easy feat.
No.
In spiritual circles where you're often interact with people who are very different from you, you don't pick them as friends. You're just a melting pot of different personalities coming together for a common goal, and cooperating with individuals is very difficult. Love means sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that hard work that you're talking about, like to live a life of no regrets. To live a life of no regrets means to sacrifice in life, right? It means to give up something, not take the comfortable path.
I mean, both of you lived ashram lives. And so in one sense, both of you renounced for a period of time in your life a relationship status. And people would say, oh, you had it easy, like just living in an ashram and like don't have to deal with people and you can be in solitude. And yeah, fine, you maybe do get a little bit more time to read and chant and stuff. But you still got to be in relationship with all the other monks out there, no?
Yeah.
There's no running away.
That was hard.
There's this idea of the crucible. Do you know what a crucible is? So for those who don't know, it's a container in which you pour like molten metal, and it holds the metal in place long enough for it to cool down, and then you take it out and it is a tool of some kind. You can use it in the world. And I was trying to work out, why did I do this whole ashram thing? Like, what was the purpose of that? And this word crucible helped me to understand what that was. And it's not just an ashram. I think we can look at wherever we are in life as a crucible, right? What is your current container, and how is it holding you? Because you can think of this molten metal as our potential, and in order for that potential to be realized, we have to be held in a certain space. And you might think that's incredibly intense, like the fact of a diamond. What's a diamond before it's a diamond? Coal, right? And in order for a coal to become diamond, intense pressure for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, but out comes something very beautiful and very sturdy and strong, right? And it's the same. There's so many examples, like a butterfly, literally, this is the weirdest thing. A caterpillar, before it becomes a butterfly, in the what's it called? The chrysalis, literally turns to like goo. It just like dissolves and becomes goo.
Actually.
Turns to goo.
Yeah. And then it kind of has a renaissance period and comes out as a butterfly, right?
Wow.
It literally liquefies.
Yeah.
So I think that an ashram, whatever it is, whether it's a temple or you can just see it as a place in your life, a period of your life, if we understand that actually this period of my life is meant to hold me in place long enough for my potential to be fully formed, so I can then like, for instance, what's the point of leaving the tool in the crucible? The reason it's there is because it's meant to cool down and you take it out and use it in the world. So that was how I understood my time there. It's like, okay, I've learned all of this stuff here in this container. Now I'm going to go out and test it.
Yeah, the question can be posed to each and every one of us. What is my container teaching me right now? I think all too often we think of life as, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this to me, God? Why? Instead of why is this happening to me, let's transform into what is this trying to teach me? What is this container that I've been placed into, yes, by our independent choice in part, but also by our karma, our destiny has placed us in this container that we're in right now. What is it trying to teach me? Because until I've learnt the lesson, I can't move forward.
Yeah. And I don't think people should feel guilty about being in a comfortable container.
No.
It's okay. But I think at some point we do need to step outside.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a comfort zone to come back into. But if you stay in the comfortable container for too long, you're just not going to progress.
That was the whole reason behind the Vrindavan pilgrimages.
Right.
I knew, people warned me. They said, are you sure you want to take people to Vrindavan? Like, why do you take them to like a bit of a resort?
Right.
Why don't you take them somewhere easy? You've not had much experience with holding retreats. Why don't you take them somewhere, take it easy on people? But I was so convinced that if you put people in a container of intensity, yes, it's going to bubble and you're going to get a lot of stuff coming up. But at least it gives people the authentic opportunity to move forward. It's not a soft landing when you go on a pilgrimage, a spiritual pilgrimage. It shouldn't be, in my opinion, a soft landing wherever you go. But then on the way out as well, when you come back to your life as you knew it previously, that's not a soft landing either, because you realized that there's work to do. And I think that that's valuable. Even as a facilitator, every time I go on a pilgrimage, I always come away going, oh man, my list of things has now,
tripled.
Yeah, I've got more to do. But that's very purifying, and that's very, for me anyway, that's very, that's joyful. That means my life has some adventure in it. If I don't have anything to work on, if I've got nothing to improve upon in this lifetime, then life is static like this. No?
Stagnant.
Yeah. Our heartbeat, what's that, the ECG, no? It moves like this. It doesn't move like that. That means dead.
Yeah.
Got nothing to do.
I often love that example of like when you have a box of rough stones or rocks and you shake them around enough, all of the conflict smoothens out the rocks and they become soft stones. We're a bit like that. We're just coal-covered, rough stock, spiky edges, and sometimes the intensity of the spiritual practice, which is painful, but actually we're chipping away, slowly chipping away, and we become really smooth and well-rounded.
It just becomes so hard now to deal with spiky people.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? I can be prideless, I can be without arrogance, I can be without conceit and anger, harshness and ignorance when I'm with smooth people that I vibe with.
Yeah.
But put me in a container filled with spiky people, all this stuff comes out.
Yeah.
And so are we advising people they should put themselves in spiky containers?
I would say don't be afraid of the challenging situations.
Wow.
But you know your capacity.
Know your capacity.
Yeah.
This is
We're
nice.
advising people to start to develop the courage
Yeah.
to put themselves in those environments.
I would say two things, right? If you're feeling super comfortable right now, find what challenges you. If you feel you're being a little bit too provoked, where it's completely overwhelming, you need to rein it back a little bit, right?
Definitely.
And we see those two extremes all the time, and it is hard to find a middle ground.
And both of those can be understood as renunciation.
Yeah.
Renunciation to take sacrifice, and renunciation to dial it down as well.
Yeah. It just brings to mind this example of a tree. Did you know a tree grows down and up at the same time?
Yeah.
Did not know that.
So
At the same time.
at the same time.
Oh, at the same time. I thought you said they grow
No, a tree grows downwards and upwards.
at the same rate.
Well, not at the same rate,
Oh, but they, at the same time.
simultaneously.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have roots and you have the tree,
Mhm.
right? So it's interesting that in order for the tree to stand strong, it needs to have very firm foundations and roots. But you don't see that. You don't see that work, you know? And it's very easy to present yourself as the big tree, but how long are you going to be standing for if there isn't those roots? It's really difficult to receive accolade and receive, fame for the roots. It's just not. People don't see the hours we put in and the practice and the time, on the track. They don't see that. They just see what we present.
The unsung heroes. The unsung heroes aren't always seen, right? They're unsung. So like
Salt.
Super yogi.
super yogis, the
Super
unsung
yogis
heroes.
like salt.
We're only singing as heroes now. But it's true, right? Like I remember living amongst the spiritual community, and there's so many special individuals which you just don't know, aren't in the limelight, aren't in the fame, but their roots are deep.
That's so true.
So deep, and they are phenomenal spiritualists. Look like an everyday average Joe, you wouldn't pick them out of a mile. Get to know them a little bit, then you just see the depth that exists in the individual, how grounded they are in provoking situations, and it's like, wow, I'm amongst saints and I just don't know it. Saints could be dressed in Gucci, Prada, whatever you may, but you have to look beyond that.
We've got to take advantage of those saints as well.
Yeah.
Like when you come into the the association, you come into the sangha of saintly people, and saintly people by definition here is people who have conquered, at least to a certain degree, if not completely, all of these qualities: pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. When you come into the association of these people, the natural Western tendency is to ask the surface level questions like, hey, how are you? Where are you traveling to next, etc. And one lesson that I learned maybe a few years ago was when you come into the association of saintly persons, ask for blessings. And I'm going to define that as well. Blessings are not a moment where the hand gets raised and like bless them up.
Spiritual rays come out of the hand.
Yeah, it's not that, but it's actually asking for guidance. That's what a blessing is. And it's even described in the scripture as being asking for guidance. And so one of the things that I found very, very useful is in my interactions with people who are advanced in their spiritual practice is to immediately ask them for guidance. Like, how can I improve? Cut to the chase. And genuinely, those questions, even though they provoke a lot of shake-up inside, it feels like the person's invested a lot more rather than the kind of smile and nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You don't get anything productive from that conversation of how are yous and,
And do you know one thing I had to learn? How to spot a saint, right? It's like a Where's Wally kind of thing. Like how do I know? Like, where is the saint? The saint is the one who says, I'm full of ignorance and conceit and anger, right?
I'm full of, right?
Yeah, and usually the one that isn't the saint is like, I'm free from ignorance and
pay me 50
ego
rupees and I'll
anger.
show
I'm
you
making
how.
great progress.
Exactly.
Like it's all good. It's funny because you're both like musicians, and the songs, the bhajans, which are like the emotional expressions in song by the saints and predecessors, they're all written in a mood of struggle. as if they haven't reached the perfection yet, and how far they are from the perfection, even though we revere them as very, very advanced individuals. So it's the mood of, I'm not there yet, because I understand how big greatness actually is.
Yeah.
And that humility conquers the favor of divinity.
Yeah.
That humility conquers the favor of divinity. We hear about like when one of these great saints, Rupa Goswami, he meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the first time. And in that meeting, he describes himself as being like really full of all of these like bad qualities.
Yeah.
And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the incarnation of divinity in the modern age, the father of Kirtan, so many ways we could describe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he replies by saying, give up your humility because it's breaking my heart.
Right.
Wow.
Can you imagine breaking the heart of divinity? I think that to purchase divinity, to purchase the supreme person, when we hear that you can purchase the supreme person by your humility, by recognizing that you've not got there.
Yeah.
And humility, like, let's also define that. For me, the most beautiful definition that really kind of touches my heart is that humility doesn't mean to think less of yourself. I'm so low, I'm so crap, I'm so worthless. It's not to think less of yourself, but to think about yourself less. You know, it's to dismiss, like, it doesn't matter about me. I'm looking at a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
To recognize that you're part and parcel of something greater.
Yeah. There's that saying, God humbles the proud and praises the humble.
Yeah.
That's actually the meaning of namaste.
Yeah.
You know, not about me, it's about you.
Mm.
Your spiritual teacher recently spoke about in these ancient yoga texts, we hear about these different divine personalities, and often they come on a carrier of some kind. You know, like Shiva's on the bull, Ganesh is on the mouse. You know, Vishnu has Garuda, the bird. And so he says, but what does Bhakti Devi, the goddess of love and devotional service, ride on? Humility.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
powerful,
beautiful.
isn't it?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're not humble, how does the saying go? If you're not perfect, be humble.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're humble, you're perfect.
You're perfect. Yeah.
I like that.
Nice little anecdote for you.
Yeah.
This has been a really nourishing conversation. I feel like we've got into some nice depth here.
I think we've been able to turn a very negative, can be seen as a very negatively perceived verse.
Yeah, I was a bit worried where we're going to go with this.
Yeah, but into a level of hope.
Into a level of hope.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful time spending your moments with us in this conversation, and we hope that it's been of some value this week, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Peace out. If you love this episode, you'll love my interview with Keshava Swami on serving others and how our life gets ironed out in the process. Go check it out.
When I have managed to find that selflessness, that sense of it's really not about me, but I'm really here as a servant to give, then I found two things happen. The first thing is that our ability to actually really serve others just expands exponentially.